Hello everyone. My name is Gualandris. I'm a lecturer at UCD, Smartfit School of Business. And today I've been invited to give a speech about how to develop more sustainable, environmentally and socially sustainable supply chain systems and what are the main constraints to that. So today's speech is about two main aspects of developing sustainable supply chains. The first one is sustainability gaps, so a little bit about why can we not change our existing supply chain system to become more environmental and socially sustainable. And the second one is how to slip away from this trap, and I will explain what the trap is. All the slides are based on empirical work that we have been doing with companies and with NGOs. So if you have any question or you need clarifications, please raise your hand. So the main starting point is there is an emerging gap during the last 10 years about sustainable supply chains. So on one hand, we'll see that stakeholders' expectations, meaning investors, customers, NGOs, governments, they are demanding for more sustainable supply chains, not just products, not just services, but sustainable exchanges and sustainable growth. This growth in expectations, unfortunately, the slope is much higher in comparison to the growth on the side of companies, because there are constraints on the capability side, on the company side. So I will just show you just a little bit of evidence to support this emerging gap concept. Just focus for a second on electronic supply chain and consider the last 10 years, what happened there. So Greenpeace in 2007 started campaigning against hazardous material in electronics devices. A few years after, the focus changed, and what is massively advertised by other organizations, societal stakeholders, was actually child labor or more social issues and exploited labor in certain parts of the supply chain. After that, another change again, so the focus became externalities in terms of air, water, and land waste and disposal, and bad externalities refer to the environment. And more recently, stakeholder focus was actually about conflict minerals. Who do you know what conflict mineral is? Have you heard about it? Okay, conflict minerals is essentially an issue. Many stakeholders are now holding responsible focal firms such as HP and other organizations in the electronic industry to not source from Africa in order to avoid subsidizing local wars and civil battles. So, but tomorrow, what is going to be the expectation? The scope is in continuous expansion. But the reality is that supply chain systems have been built over 10, 20 years, and they have been made and structured in a way that would facilitate the achievement of certain goals: profitability, efficiency, responsiveness, not necessarily sustainability. So now, how can we change them, and why can we not change them so quickly? So here is just an example. I was discussing yesterday with some of my students at Smartfit about this network. So this is the map of the supply network of one component within the Honda Accord, within Honda organization. So you see how many suppliers are involved, and you see that Honda is essentially at the periphery of the network, cannot control the network at all. And all the suppliers also have been selected in order to be really efficient, to work on waste reduction and CO2 emission. But because of the investments that have been made during time, now that Honda is required to come up with more sustainable products, now they have a very big issue because they don't have the capability to develop new products because they focused on new process development. So what I'm trying to say is that when we make decisions about our core competencies within the organization or within the supply chain, we are essentially increasing the chances to slip into a trap. So we are fostering core rigidities. It means if today, for any reason, we decide to avoid or we decide to outsource production processes or new product development or R&D, any of those competencies, tomorrow we might need them and we might not be able to redevelop those sets of skills. Let me make a silly example. If you start playing soccer when you are very young, okay, you learn when you're young and then you'll always remember how to do it. But if you start playing soccer when you are 20 years old, it's then really difficult to keep up with others. Because of that, that is a silly example of core rigidities. Because when you were young, you were focused on another sport, now you'll not be able to play soccer. But what if your stakeholder is demanding you to play soccer? So, essentially, just to sum up this concept, on one hand, we have growing expectations in terms of range of issues to cover and also depth of responsibility within the supply chain. Now firms are held accountable for suppliers and second-tier suppliers, certain companies. But the reality is that because of decisions about structures and capabilities in our supply chain, companies cannot keep up with the demands. And what happened is that we observe nowadays and in the last 10 years several scandals. Like in Ireland, the horse meat scandal was a problem about transparency and traceability in the supply chain. Then another issue more recent, the Rana Plaza collapsed. More than 1,000 workers died in a plant because of lack of security and safety. The last one is recent, last year Tesco, some food safety problems as well. So our research focused on how can we win those path dependencies, those core rigidities. How can we enlarge our portfolio of competencies? And perhaps it's really silly, but we need to network. And not network with everybody, but with who has complementary skills to share. And we found that in the area of environmental and social sustainability, some NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are now acting in support of business, not just as a source of pressure, not just criticizing, but also working side by side with companies. Even in Ireland, there is an increase in the donations that companies make towards those type of institutions. And our research went a bit more deeper, and we classified NGOs based on what they can offer to you. And these metrics can be useful when you look out and search for a potential partner to win those core rigidities. So if you really need to go on the field and train your supplier or one of your plants to change the production process, you need to focus on those that have technical skills. And Oxfam, for example, is one of them. They really focus on developing capabilities. If you instead, you need to prioritize what issue to address in your supply chain, because there are so many and you want to focus resources on some of them and you want to choose them appropriately, then you might decide to engage with an NGO that during time have developed relational skills, such as Greenpeace. Greenpeace is famous because it was able to put together really diverse stakeholders and facilitate discussion to come up with aligned goals and objectives. So you want to use them as a mediator to prioritize the issues in your supply chain. And this can happen in many different ways. You can engage dyadically, so you can engage one-to-one, or there are also cases in which you ask the NGO to facilitate the communication and the exchange of tacit knowledge with suppliers. And of course, there are also more complex networks of organization that I don't have time today to discuss. Now the question from a business perspective would be, I think, okay, but how can we engage with those companies? Well, they are not companies. They don't look for profit. They have other objectives in mind. How can we engage effectively with them? So again, based on our research, what it came out is that you simply have to go back to basics. It's a really simple process, effectively. So first of all, you have to decide what partner and what type of association form. Select the contract. And when you think at what contract should be used or what organization should be selected, then you simply apply the metrics that you've seen before, and you look into your ecosystem. Then what is really critical in the process is the third point, value definition. So when you sit at the table with those organizations, you really need to be transparent about what your goals are, what the potential issues you want to address are, and engage with them to understand what they value more, so that you have, through that process of discussion, you align objectives and you're really clear about potential goals in the short and long run. Then you simply decide, should we organize our initiative as a joint venture? Should we create a virtual team or organization working together, 3 from my organization, 3 from yours? What different mechanism can we select? And then the value renewal part. So just to conclude the presentation, there is this concept of inclusivity, which I want to put forward, which is really important for you to increase the variety of stakeholders that you will include during the design of your change process, but also in the execution of your change process. And this will drive a number of outcomes. So briefly to summarize, 2 main suggestions based on our experience with companies and NGOs. First, it's really important to dig deep under the surface to understand what are your rigidities, what you are not good at. Because perhaps tomorrow someone will ask to develop a goal that is related to the lack of capabilities you have. And second, achieve a balanced inclusivity. Understand who you should engage with and how. Because it's not easy being green, but you're not alone. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Gualandris? Okay, you have one there. Oh, okay.
They're my students, so they can ask me that.
Thank you very
About
much.
time.
Okay, so we have Dr. Fionn Rogan. He's not here yet.